Rick, obviously we are a day away from the big debate. What feels like the second debate, but is it the first debate? But I wanted to get your thoughts heading into this. And of course, the Harris campaign decided, maybe today we should post our issues page. Maybe we should actually reveal a little bit of what we're talking about. Of course, you read it, and there's not a lot of meat there.
Yeah, look, this is going to be a very big debate. I hope it's not the only debate. There is talk of an NBC debate in about 2 weeks. I hope the Kamala Harris team will say yes to it. Donald Trump has said yes to it. It's important that we have more discussion, more transparency. We do know she's running from the media, and that strategy is not working. They have been forced to do, a little bit of policy discussion, not policy details on their website because there's been pressure. The media has not been the pressure point. It's the public. The public has been screaming for more information, and she is, I think, the first person to run for president to have a leverage pressure campaign from the public, not from the media. The media are allowing her to get away with it. This could be the first presidential campaign that is stopped, that fails because of the public, not because of the media. And I think that's a really important point.
Rick, I wanted to get your take on this because you're hoping for a second debate between Trump and Kamala Harris, but the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, is not so sure this one's going to happen. I want to get your reaction to bite two.
What advice would you give Donald Trump for the debate? You're super close, I know.
Yeah.
You are close in a way.
He takes my advice, yeah. Do you think he's going to show up?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. Do you know something I don't know?
I know cowardice when I see it. Yeah.
So Speaker Pelosi, former Speaker Pelosi, doesn't think Donald Trump's going to show up to the debate after he already won one election against Joe Biden because of his debate performance?
Look, Nancy Pelosi gets to get away with this crazy talk because the media doesn't push back on her. Everybody outside of Washington, outside of newsrooms, knows that it's Kamala Harris that hasn't decided to go into the next debate. She's the one who's still complaining about mics, and she wanted to have notes. She wanted to sit at a desk. She wanted to literally sit there and read her talking points. And that's not what Joe Biden had agreed to with President Trump. And so the media and the left are spinning this whole thing that somehow Kamala is the strong one and Trump is afraid. Everybody knows that that's bunk. Everybody knows that that's ridiculous. But Nancy Pelosi gets to get away with this, say this publicly, and the crowd just roars because they're living in a dream world where the media just tell them total falsehoods and they're not able to hear dissenting views. I mean, look, I talk about this on Twitter a lot. Comcast owns MSNBC and NBC News. And what Comcast is doing to silence the dissenting voices from the conservatives is outrageous. And people need to speak up who are Comcast customers. This shouldn't be allowed to happen in America.
I think a lot of people actually look at that too, and they're looking at what CNN is doing. CNN maybe is pushing back harder than they've pushed before. We've seen some responses from some of the other networks. Maybe they are seeing. We can honestly look at the policy page and even see that they are leaning a bit more towards trying to find that sort of middle ground voter, that maybe that far left, extreme left they thought was going to be their largest voice in the room, is not quite what they thought it was. Maybe it is just that social media voice, because we've seen, other than from like Will said, she's out there being very moderate on Israel, and then you have Tim Walz taking a more extreme view. It seems like they are trying to kind of have their cake and eat it too, if you will, in this scenario. And of course now you have former Vice President Dick Cheney come out and say, I'm voting for Harris and support Harris, and he's being welcomed with open arms. I mean, as someone who was very much around during the Bush era, and as someone who was a proud Bush supporter, I know you as well, worked there at the time, we've all kind of were involved in some ways. To see the Democrats embrace who they kind of put out there as like Darth Vader, as like the ultimate evil. It's just so telling.
Yeah, look, this to me is typical of Washington, D.C. swamp. They love money. They love the defense industrial complex. They want wars because they benefit from wars. And let's just remember that it was the entire left, the entire Democratic Party that wanted to prosecute Dick Cheney for war crimes in Iraq. It's insane because now, the only people that were defending Cheney back then were Republicans. Now Dick Cheney has turned and embraced Kamala Harris, the person who has literally undermined democracy and is the most ill-prepared person ever to run for office.
Rick, we earlier talked about in the show that Senator Bernie Sanders was on Meet the Press, speaking of NBC and Comcast. And Kristen Welker asked him about the flip-flops that we've seen from Kamala Harris. She used to be more in line with the things you supported, but now she's changed on these issues.
She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. My own view is slightly different. I think that in America today, there are a lot of people, rural people, working class people, who no longer believe that the United States Congress and government represents their interests, too dominated by big money interests.
And Senator Sanders, to his credit, said the quiet part out loud. He said that I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win an election. Did he tell us 100% what we would see from a Harris administration? It would be the way she had ruled in California as Attorney General, the way that she voted as a senator, and the way she went along with the Biden schemes as vice president? Is it going to be what we know from history of Kamala Harris or what she puts out publicly now that she's the candidate for president?
Well, she's not changing her values. Let's remember that. And her values are very well known. We've seen them on video. What's happening right now is the Kamala Harris team and Kamala Harris herself have been caught because they always assumed that the California playbook would be the way that you win the White House. They were so naive to think that what worked in Sacramento was somehow going to work in Washington, D.C. And let me just tell you, as a Californian, they've ruined this state with their woke ideologies. She's on video saying you got to be more woke. You should always be woke. And we have seen firsthand in California that woke policies are atrocious. What they're trying to do is win an election. So she's saying things like, I'm not against fracking because she's got to win Pennsylvania. This is a clear indication that they're panicking and that their strategy to run as a woke, radical San Francisco progressive is not working. Everyone knew it wasn't going to work. Kamala is the last one to know that it wasn't going to work.
And Rick, you mentioned your home state of California. I'm sure you saw the LA Times column that came out that said they say Democrats are to blame for all California's problems, but the GOP is MIA. I just want to get your quick take on that one.
Well, that's Steve Lopez. He's crazier than a loon. He's said the most outrageous things. And I think the bigger story is, why does the LA Times continue to have this far left communist writing pieces? He's literally been wrong on every single subject. And he's been a cheerleader for all of the woke policies in California.
Rick, thank you so much for joining us. I want to encourage everyone who's listening we can't have great voices like Rick Grinnell on this show without your support. And as always, Rick, it's always great to hear from you. And I really look forward to, obviously, we got a big day tomorrow with the debate. I look forward to hearing your response to everything that goes down. We got a busy week ahead.